Okay. There are several cases where people drew graphs that didn't look like they should because they didn't use a consistent scale on one or more axes. Okay? So let's just be sure we understand what we mean. Means what's wrong with this labeling?
They're all the same length apart from each other.
Yeah, well, that could be okay, but in this case it isn't. Why not?
Because the numbers are...
Yeah, the distance between the numbers aren't the same, right? So if that's what your data says, if you have 3019 and 1814 and 1512, okay? Doesn't mean you put them down at equal distances. That's what your data said, okay? You scale your graph. Also, where's 0 on the x-axis? Here, right? Now what's wrong with 0, 30, 18, 15? Numbers going the wrong way, aren't they? Okay? Okay, so this distance would be -12, this distance would be -3. They look about equal. Is 12 equal to well, it's -12. This displacement would be -12. Is -12 the same as -3? And it does go negative. That's a positive direction, right? Okay? And here, you know, this displacement would be 3, this would be 9, this would be 2, and this would be 5. They all look the same, but they represent different displacements, right? Okay? So make sure you know how to scale a graph. You know, what you do is, if I had these numbers, what I would do is I would say, okay, here's 20, half of that's 10, half of that's 5, and you've seen me do this numerous times, so make sure you understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? You know, divide this interval in half so that this distance is equal to this distance, because this distance would be 10 and this distance would be 10, right? And then I divide those in half so that the scales make sense, so that the shape of the graph makes sense. Okay? The shape of the graph doesn't make sense, you're not going to be able to interpret what it's telling you. Okay? It's easy enough to do this. And here, I would go out to 32 in this case, 30 being the biggest number I have. Okay? 32 being a power of 2 means I can divide it down 16. I can divide this in half, that'd be 8. If I divide this in half, well, that distance is 8. Of course, that number is 24, and so forth. And subdivide it as appropriate. Make sense? Because the shapes of the graph are important. If you don't do that, you don't get the right shape. Okay? Another thing I'm seeing sometimes is you have a graph, and I ask you to do the fundamental triangle. Let's say for the interval 8, 24. Okay? And I see a fundamental triangle that goes from here to here. I mean, I've seen such things, okay? Fundamental triangle, let's be careful, you know, let's be sure we understand where the fundamental triangle for that interval is. That interval is from 8 to 24. I've drawn this picture before. So it goes from here to here. Corresponding graph points are here and here. And a fundamental triangle on a graph always goes from one point on the curve to another. The hypotenuse goes from one point on the curve to the other. So we define a fundamental triangle for 2 points. The 2 points are the 2 points on the graph, right? So it's got to go from a point on the graph to a point on the graph, and then you complete the triangle. Okay? And you want to show the whole triangle. You want that triangle to be there in very clear markings. Okay? So that you can label the run, label the rise, and label the slope. With the slope in a box, a rectangle. I'm not seeing those rectangles. Okay? I'm seeing parts of it, and I'm seeing often off to the side someplace I see the right work, but I'm not seeing it where I need to see it. And you're not showing it where you need to see it. Okay? You don't need to see it over there. You need to see it here because the trend of these slopes can be very important. Okay? And also you got to see where it is on the graph. Okay? It's a fairly straightforward standard. Okay? And I'm not seeing that from the majority of the people, although I think the majority of people understand the fundamental triangles okay. Okay, most of you do. Maybe all of you do. But there's a standard for how we do these things, and I've defined that very clearly. If you haven't picked it up, think about why you haven't picked it up. Okay? If you look back at the videos, I don't necessarily expect you to do that, but if you look back at the videos, you see I told you very clearly what to do and how to label these. Right? Now this is going to get real important because next week it's going to be a test. Okay? And what I'm going to post for you tomorrow is going to be a sample test. I don't want you to work out for Tuesday. Okay? And then the test will be administered in the testing center. No time limit. You should be able to get it done in an hour, but usually something you should get done in an hour takes you 2 or 3. Okay? If you're not fully prepared, but if you can slowly think it through, that's okay. As long as you can think it through, I'm okay with it. Okay? But if you're fully prepared and know what to anticipate, it's designed to take an hour. Okay? And you maybe you just want to go into a lot more detail than absolutely necessary. Okay? That's okay. You do it. I'll be glad to read it. Make sense? So you give yourself time. Make sure you do everything thoroughly. I want to see things communicated. I'm not going to have unreasonable expectations. Okay? Because it's a work in progress. And I want to make sure that you're making statements and showing exactly what everything means. Okay? If you don't say what it means, I can't tell that you understand what it means. Okay? People haven't, there's the whole thing of interpreting fundamental triangles, and that's another thing. What do you do to interpret the fundamental triangle? You tell what the rise means, you tell what the run means, you tell what the slope means. Not in terms of the graph. The slope isn't how high it goes divided by how far it goes to the right or left. Okay? Slope has a meaning for whatever situation we're talking about. Okay? And that's getting better. Again, I'm not going to expect miracles, but I do expect you to know, you say what the rise is, you say what the run is, you say what the slope is. I don't think that's something I haven't stressed. Okay? I think it's been thoroughly stressed, and I've showed you examples and examples. I'm not going to show you anymore. At least not with full explanation. I might give you a quick explanation. You might have to go back to the original videos if you don't know. Okay? So keep working at it.